Hi everyone to another lit lesson with GCSE memes. Today we'll be looking at Animal Farm by George Orwell once again, but this time we're looking at the character of Old Major, who is a character who only really appears in chapter 1, but who's very significant for the whole of the novella. So we'll be doing some character analysis of him, looking at the sort of key quotes, the techniques, and also the important context behind him and who he represents. So let's start with that last part I've just mentioned there, who he represents. And George Orwell was really influenced by these two figures and kind of made Old Major a kind of mishmash, a combination of these two in his novella. So, who are these figures then? Karl Marx and Vladimir Lenin. Well, Karl Marx was a German philosopher who is known as the father of communism. And he basically kind of founded these first few ideas that was meant to suggest how we could improve power structures and change them for a more fair society. And Karl Marx basically influenced both Orwell and this figure, just below him here, Vladimir Lenin, who was the character, this historical figure who was a Russian revolutionary, who basically was inspired by Marx to bring this idea of communism and this idea of changing power structures to Russia in the early 20th century. So it's these two figures who Old Major represents, and he is based on both of them. So that's who he represents, but who is he in the story then? Well, in the story he is a pig who is quite old, who makes a speech about his vision for a fairer farm, and this basically sets the rebellion in motion right from the start of the novella in chapter 1. Now we're going to look at three key words to describe Old Major, and it's these three words today. He is a well-respected character, he is articulate, and he's an experienced and highly intelligent figure too. So let's have a look at these in a little bit more detail then. So we'll start with well-respected. Now, Old Major is well-respected, and we can tell this from the start because it says in this description of him some very, very key parts and the key things. There's lots of positive connotations, even in his name, Major, but he's also described as Willingdon Beauty, which was his kind of show name and his exhibition name. And this immediately suggests that he's this positive figure. And it says in this part as well that people and the other animals are happy to lose another hour's sleep in order to hear what he had to say. So that shows you that he obviously is someone who the other characters do look up to. And on top of that we get some symbolism as well. And Major actually stands on a raised platform, which geographically symbolises that he is above other characters, both in terms of physicality in this case, but also in terms of respect as well. As well as that, we have these lovely adverbs. If we look at this green speech here, we've got this adverb attentively. And the word attentively basically means that the other characters are awaiting and hanging on his every word and patiently and politely listening to him. As well as that, we do have a part here from chapter 5. Now, he's not in chapter 5, he dies the sort of very, very immediately after chapter 1. But in chapter 5, his skull is dug up and actually used as a symbol to motivate the other characters to continue the revolution, and as a reminder of this epic speech made by Old Major just after this description of him that we've just looked over. So that's a first word for him, well respected. The second word we'd use for him is articulate, and basically that means he's good at speaking, okay, and good at conducting speeches. He's not the only character to be like that, but it is the first character we see to use these kind of features. And some of the first features he uses when speaking include what we call rhetoric. Now, rhetoric is basically persuasive language. And one of the most obvious features of rhetoric is the rhetorical question. It shows you his ability here to engage his audience with questions that have obvious answers. That in this case of this one, that human beings are the evil figures and the ones who are making them suffer. He also uses what we call imperatives, okay, bossy words, to persuade his audience to change their behaviour, and in this case, rebel and overthrow the humans. And there's also this word here that is unifying and used throughout the text. Old Major is the first character to use it, but it becomes a word used by every character. It's militaristic, which basically means that it's a word that we associate with the military, which suggests that these characters are unified and fighting for each other when it comes to looking after their rights and the rebellion. And the final words that we'd use about him are these here: experienced and highly intelligent. And we see this through his use of statistics, okay, so numbers. And in this case, we see that he uses the words 12 years old to describe his age, and that the fact he's had 400 children. He does this to give himself credibility. He is the voice of experience, and that means that characters are more likely to listen to him because he's had a rich and fulfilled life. He also mentions his ancestry and the fact that he was taught the song, Beasts of England, by his mother and ancestors. And this makes the animals more inspired to follow this revolution, because it suggests that the revolution was happening or starting to happen many, many years ago, and these other animals want to fulfill and respect their ancestors and elders by making sure that this rebellion does take place. And of course, he's highly intelligent, and we see that throughout his speech. He makes this kind of utopian dream, and he regularly speaks about making this kind of farm a place of perfection, which inspires this hope in his listeners. But also, I think it's good to mention that as well, this lovely term here, polysyllabic lexis. He uses these really posh words, as you can see here: abundance, affording, capable, enormously, all right, which suggests once again that he's a intelligent source of information, that his ideas are good and ones that we should follow. So those are the key words used to describe him that make this speech very inspirational, and one that is actually very successful, because obviously the animals do rebel as a result of this. Now, my suggestion to you would be to have, having made notes on this, now have a go at one or two of these questions that are provided here. So in what ways is Old Major's speech important in the novel? Okay, and you don't have to speak just about chapter 1. If you want to challenge yourself, you can talk about how it influences the characters later on, of course. Or you could try this question, which is a bit more of a theme one: explore the significance of intelligence in Animal Farm. You don't just have to mention Old Major for that question, of course. Don't forget, you should definitely be mentioning context for Animal Farm responses, and I will, of course, put for you the Animal Farm full text in the description, but I'd recommend you pause it here and make sure you have a bit of a go at these, writing a couple of essay paragraphs, or even considering writing just a plan as part of your revision. Now then, the moment you've all been waiting for. Today's meme. So, one thing that I will always remember about Old Major, and I think it's really important because, like I said, context is really important for your Animal Farm exam, is that he is a mixture of those two characters, and Orwell has made him represent both Vladimir Lenin and Karl Marx because he was influenced by both their ideas. Okay, so remember that. As always, feel free to request any extra content or anything extra that you might have struggles with at home. Any memes that you want me to use or try to get into my videos, do ask for those too. And anything else, just make sure you mention it in the comments. Like and subscribe as always if you haven't already, and check out our Instagram too. Thank you.